SeadogSeven crew. Some of you have been asking about instructions how to take off the fuel tank off the Rocket 3 GT. There's some problems going on with the lasty dip that I put on there. It's not lasting even close to as long as when I first did it. It's peeling, it's coming off. We'll have a detailed instruction video on how to remove the fuel tank off the Rocket 3 GT. All right, we've got two Allen keys here. This one in here, and the one on the opposite side. That'll take off the digital cluster. You know this bolt's gonna fall, right? I'm also gonna take this off because it'll be in the way. And I'm gonna take out my quick pass, my NC quick pass. Now I'll take out this one. Be careful when you go to take it out because it might fall and hit your tank. That's out. Now normally I would just let this hang off to the side down here. But if you want to, you can unplug this and just take it out of the picture altogether. But I am just going to let it hang. Now we need to take out that Allen key and this. Pretty long bolt. I don't remember what size. It's going to be the same. Alright, so let's do that. This takes forever. One thing I wish I had a power tool for. Yep. But you know, self-inflicted pain gets no sympathy. One thing I figured out about this is once you get this loose enough, it'll probably be even easier if I can take off this plastic cap like that. But you get this loose enough, you can just come in here with a couple fingers and spin it from the threads. Get it loose, and drop the bolt. Bolt also has a washer on it. We're gonna slide the threads out. We're gonna put this back on. And we're going to put our plastic cap on there so that we don't lose this whole assembly. As soon as I go to put it back together, I'm not going to know where I put it. All right, now this will come off and I'll show this to you. That's the pad, so that's not a big deal. There are two padded strips, or rubber strips, whatever you want to call them, on here. I'll clean those up. Yeah, there's two rubber strips on here. So I'm going to end up painting this as well, so I got to clean this up, clean out all the plastic dip off and all that. Got it pretty well cleaned off. I had to use Goo Gone or Goof Off, whichever one you like, but you might be able to see right here the scratches. To get the tube out, use the bolt that you just removed and don't ruin the threads Gonna put it in there slightly and just kind of wedge it in, tweak it one way or the other. And you're gonna pull out the tube. And then don't lose that. Now the tank lifts up. Before you can lift the tank off, there are 3 connections that you have to disconnect. Now you can raise the tank while it's sitting on the bike to get to these connections, but you won't be able to release or pull the tank off until you disconnect these 3 connections. This is the first disconnect that you're going to have to make. So on the right hand side,
Right. I can't even point to it. Right up there. Right there. See it? So just take a plastic tool, something that's not going to do any damage, hopefully, and you're just going to pry it forward and pop it off of there. There's nothing holding it on, no clamp or anything like that.
there it is. So that's what it came off of. To do this fuel line disconnect, you might want to get yourself a block of wood, lift up on the back of the tank, wedge that in there, and then right here is your fuel line. This is what we're going to disconnect. The easiest way I've found, because I've broken this, actually my little brother broke it, because I told him just to lift up on the tank. The easiest way I've found is that there is a clip to pull out, and then you can just pop it off the nipple. All right, there we go. So if you push back, see where there's a section there to put in a screwdriver or something? Push out on that, and mine just popped right off. We're gonna take this off and have a better look at it. The last thing you gotta remove, oh, while we dump some fuel. This is where it'd be handy to have a second pair of hands. Pulling the tank back and resting back here while it drips fuel. Gotta unplug this. So I'm gonna find a second pair of hands. My second pair of hands ended up being a longer board and a tweaker. Maybe 2 tweakers. Like I said, a second pair of hands would be great. Ooh, I've got movement. There we go. Yeah, that's easy. Uh-huh. Now, we can take it over here. Oh. There's the fuel line intake. Plug.
And the hose connector.
There's the hose, the plug, and the fuel line. I'm not painting the tank. My niece came around and I asked her what her thoughts were, and she thought that leaving the silver, leaving everything the way it is originally, just helps break it up and gives it some character. So I'm gonna leave it, at least for now, and I'm going to get some compound in that and try to buff out those scratches. I did paint the other parts, like the center strap, the 3 different caps. So waiting for those to dry, but I can go ahead and get started and put the tank back on the bike.
go in reverse. We're going to take the tank, put it back over here, reconnect the plug, that is snapped closed. So when you go to push it on, it needs to be opened. So you see the difference in the amount of gray that's being exposed here? That's open. There you go. The amount of gray that's exposed there, that's open, that's closed. So putting it on, you need to have that open. Now it goes down, and then I can close that plastic piece. And there we go. Let's go to the other side and put on the hose. And I'll find the hose. And down, probably feed it through here. And then slide it back on. Now before, I've taken off my tank probably, this might be the third or fourth time. So I've sprayed white lithium grease on this just to get it over. So if you're having issues getting this hose back on, throw some white lithium grease on there. So there you go. Now we just go in reverse with the rest of the stuff and get the bolts put on, get our tank reseated, and that should be it. There we go. Putting the tube back in. Got wood? This might be as far as we get because I'm waiting on my parts to dry. Let's get back to reassembling this. One thing to notice when you're putting this tank strap back on is that these little nodules here are for the hooks on the tank. So right in here are the hooks, one on each side. So that's how you get the tank strap on and off. Also, the little rubber straps that are underneath the tank strap has this small ridge on the side, and that goes right up against the outside edge of the tank strap. Got it on there. All latched. Bring it down. And I gotta put this in there. Alright, let's see how much fun this is gonna be. Alright, we don't need the rubber cap right now. Plastic cap, rubber cap, whatever it is. So I gotta try to get this bolt started without losing it down by the battery. I think it started. So what I was doing is I was taking one finger, sticking it on top of the head here, or under the head. Then I would use my thumb and index finger to spin the threads. You can see there, some threads have started. So what I want to do now, before I get this too far going, is I want to line up, make sure I'm pretty well even from here to here, all the way across. And then before we get it too tight, like she said, I need to get that bolt started. All right, so we gotta try to line this up. Lift the tank up a bit, make sure that the bolt's getting lined up. Get a few threads started. This is a pretty long bolt, so I'm not using power tools, but you can go ahead and use power tools. We'll go over my setup here in a second. All right, it's snug, but it's not super ugga-dugga tight. I got my neighbors across the street. This isn't a holler. This is the part that's gonna take forever. Anybody want to come over and do this for me? I know by the time you see this video, it'll already be done, but come on. There is a duck across the street. My neighbors have a duck. Would like to give it one more turn. I lost the plastic cap that goes on that. It's down in my bike somewhere. So it is what it is. Now I need to tighten that down. The last part is getting the digital cluster back on. Before we put that up there, let's go over my setup. I got this off of eBay. They give you longer handlebar bolts. Say that 3 times fast. And this mount, this ball mount. And then I use a quad lock mount to put on there. It has wireless charging. I don't recommend the USB version of this, but I recommend the normal 12 volt one. Now, if you use the normal 12 volt one, that's the one that I have going directly into the cowl off the 12 volt socket here. So I don't need to put a fuse on it because it's already on a fuse. And then this Velcro is for my NC Quick Pass. And yes, that is upside down, but if you look at the instructions on it, it has an arrow there, actually on both sides. I don't know if you can see it with the light flashing on there. So it needs to be pointing forward, and typically that would be mounted up in your windshield. So up like that. So that's why it's upside down, just so that it can go directly on here, like that, and be forward. It'll sit just like that, as if it's in a windshield. That's from my Garmin, and that's also wired into the 12 volt. So it has on and off switched power. Let's get back to putting this on. Get this out of the way. Best way I've found is to put the Allen wrench on there and try to finagle it in. You just want a couple threads going for now, and then go to the other side and do the same thing. Got a few threads on both sides before I tighten it down. I want to get my positioning right, get my NC Quick Pass, get that put in there where I want it, and I can tighten this down. Okay, that one's snug, so let's go over here. I'm going to snug this one down too. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a box end wrench. I'm going to give them a little bit of ugga-dugga. Doesn't have to be a big wrench, it can be a little wrench. No, sorry, average. A little bit of ugga-dugga. Here we go. Just a little bit of ugga-dugga. So now it's sitting in there, and we can put on the smaller stuff. So this would actually conclude your tank removal and reinstall. But like I said, because I painted certain things, I painted this, painted the fuel cap,
radiator cap and the oil cap and this over here. Painted this little swoosh. A while ago I painted the intake. I didn't repaint those this time because they are painted with the high heat matte black, which is the same type coloring that the exhaust pipes would have, so I wanted that to match. These two are pretty easy. I say that and I'm stalling. So there's little latches here that go inside with this and this. Now you're supposed to be able to take this cap off by removing this screw. It's not all that easy, at least it wasn't on mine. It only came out a little bit and then stopped. I was still able to get this off, but I can't reuse that screw. So I just cut it down and I put sticky tape on the inside. And I guess it only goes on one way so that the pin bolt is sticking on the outside. So there's that. Three bolts, two in the front, one in the back. A little bit of ugga-dugga. Not gonna close it all the way because clear coat still needs to cure. And there's clear coat on the latch. So I'm gonna leave that sit for now. Hopefully I don't forget about it. Yeah, I'll have to clean up my wiring. This got kind of pulled out when I was removing the tank. So this is cameras, front and rear, and this is the alarm. And these are for, they're just additional leads for when I want to use heated gear. And there we have it, back together. She does need to be washed. She needs to be blown off too because that plasti dip still pulling stuff off. But the plasti dip, when I was taking it off, ended up falling down onto the pipes and everything else. All right, that's it. It's the end of the video. How to remove the tank, put it back on. That's my girl. Still pretty, beautiful as ever. Play bar was an excellent idea. Pete, my brother, thank you. S7 crew, thank you for all your support, comments, suggestions. Those that haven't subscribed, please subscribe, like, comment. Make sure you're staying tuned. Be blessed. I'll see you next time.
There are S7 protocols, okay?
Triple black is back. Oops. Dress appropriately. There's a good reason for that. Honestly, I never have had this issue of putting something in a hole. Stay tuned.